Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Kevin.
I'm Caitlin.
And Tim.
And we're talking about articles from cmuptm.blogspot.com. This next article is FastPass Plus, the benefits and challenges of Disney's crowd management system by Dan Heaton at Theme Park Insider. So basically, it's about FastPass Plus, which is a service that you pay for that allows you to skip long lines by making reservations for like attractions and stuff ahead of time at Disney theme parks. Personally, reading this article just made me realize that taking your kids to Disney World doesn't sound like a vacation. It sounds more like my idea of hell on earth. But what did you guys think?
About the same.
I mean, this guy says he's taken his kids to Disney 5 times.
How old are they, did they say? How old the kids are? Like, if it's like every year? I must have missed talks about it. But yeah, that's
5
like
times,
a lot.
I assume that's like throughout they had to start young
Yeah.
and late. Because how many trips can you really fit into your Disney trips can you fit into your childhood and then still be interested? I don't know. I feel like you have to lose interest at like 13, 14.
I have friends though who like live nearby and they'll get like nearby to Disneyland and they'll get those season pass things and they'll go whenever they can. They go like weekly. And it's like, I totally agree that I'm like, this wasn't even interesting to me as a child the first time.
Oh, I disagree. I was totally interested as a
No,
child. I wanted to go because I saw the commercials like in front of all my Disney movies, and
Yeah.
it just seemed like heaven. And now it just seems like long lines, crowds, lots of children. It just seems like the worst place in the world.
Yeah.
You said you wanted to go. Did you go?
No.
Interesting. I've never met anyone who was into going as a child, but lost interest. That
Really?
was mentioned.
Oh, I guess
anyone who I know who was ever into it is like still into it and still wants to.
I went to like Universal
It's
Studios in
like a
Orlando, which was more like a Six Flags, but never, not like Epcot or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I shouldn't say, I guess, that I was never interested. We went when I was 12 or so, I think, because we happened to be in Florida. We went to Disney World with our family, and it was fun. It just wasn't something that we were like, yeah. It was sort of like, well, we're here. I guess we should do this,
Yeah.
right? Maybe we're missing something. We went, had an okay time. It was nice, and then it was like, good day. But we were never really like a Disney family either. So
Well, we're a little bit off
Sorry.
topic, but this article was boring anyway, so let's move on.
basically, it's about nothing. I mean, who cares?
Yeah. So let's move on to a story we've covered several times. We finally have a verdict in the Midnight Rider train disaster. The article is called Midnight Rider First AD Hilary Schwartz Guilty Gets 10 Years Probation. It's by David Robb on Deadline Hollywood. So this, of course, is the case about the Midnight Rider film shoot that was on an unauthorized film shoot on a train track that resulted in the death of a 27-year-old camera woman, and just was like blatantly, even willfully negligible and like completely irresponsible. And so yeah, Hilary Schwartz will get no jail time, unlike her director, who
It's 2 years, I think they said.
Randall Miller, who pled guilty, will serve 2 years in prison. It's
she's
just a tragedy.
$5,000 fine. It is one of those things where you're like, you're glad that they're being made an example of. You wonder how much of this goes on elsewhere where there just hasn't been a tragedy. So hopefully it makes people pay attention. I mean, it's not okay to be filming on an active railroad system and not cover your bases.
No guardrails. No one even like 10 minutes down the track being like,
Right.
it's coming.
Right.
Like
Nothing.
we'll just check a train schedule. I bet it's reliable. Like
Right.
what?
No, not enough.
Yeah, my first reaction was no jail time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I got to the part in the article where I mentioned this is actually a precedent-setting case. This is the first time that anyone has ever been punished for doing anything like this.
Yeah.
So like,
I mean, and the director did get jail time, which
Yeah.
probably should be noted that maybe it was because they found this assistant was not specifically involved enough in it. Whatever. I don't know.
But it is the first time. It's a historic case in that it's the first time the filmmakers have ever been convicted of involuntary manslaughter in connection to a death on the set.
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but think, like, if someone like could go back in time and tell them like this production is gonna make history. But
You have no idea. Yeah.
it's just like really depressing all around because, you know, I look at this picture of this woman and she just looks like ragged.
Right.
I can't imagine what a traumatic experience is. Not like to say that, you know, she shouldn't have to face consequences for her actions, but
Right.
just the whole thing is so depressing.
It's very sad.
Okay,
Bad.
should we move on?
Yeah.
So, I feel like we're just
Right.
firing through the day. Okay, so our next article is it's from Essential Pittsburgh. It's called an August Wilson protege on how he learned what he learned. It's on 90.5 WESA, which is Pittsburgh's NPR station. And Caitlin, why don't you take this one?
Sure. It is basically just an interview with the host of WESA with the actor Eugene Lee, who plays in, I can't remember what the
It's called
film
How.
is.
It was at Pittsburgh Public Theater. The
Pittsburgh
correction
Public, yeah.
was How I Learned What I Learned, which was August Wilson's the last play he wrote before his death in 2005.
And a one-man show that kind of gets into maybe the way that August Wilson thinks a little bit more than him personally than his other plays. And it's directed by his protege, director Todd Creedler. So Creedler and Lee, who's the actor playing August Wilson in the play, are both interviewed. And it's nice. It talks about Creedler's relationship with Wilson in their life and how he got to know him. And it turns out it was basically that Creedler was just on a production with Wilson many years ago, and they struck up a conversation during a break, and somebody came in to get them and were like, you know, the break's over, and they're like, oh, we know, we thought that we were on. They're like, no, we mean that the second break's over, and you actually talked through the entire equity section in between, and it's been 2.5 hours. And like, oh. So they just became like fast friends, and then Wilson kind of took him on as a collaborator in many aspects. They do a lot of plays where they're developing them, or were developing them in Wilson's basement. Wilson began to think of him as a son of his. And it's just cool. It's about a real authentic relationship that developed between people who just got close and obviously really cared about and valued each other and the work they were making. And it's cool to see this guy kind of carrying on, and he's like, let's keep doing some cool August Wilson stuff now.
And I learned how much August Wilson apparently said "man."
A lot.
Because in all in Todd Creedler's imitations of August Wilson, like every other word is "man."
Man, a lot of times.
Hey man, we gotta like do this thing, man.
There's also a nice quote that they pull out of this interview here that says, his quality of mind is actually something that comes out in the show, and that's something Eugene really brings out, the actor. The way he can twist and turn. I always say that August was a blues mind with a jazz mind. Something that Creedler said, which is really rare. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a great thing in the article about how Wilson, he dropped out of school so that he could go to the library every day, all day, and teach himself, because he knew he wanted to be a poet, and he's like, school's dumb. And so he went to learn, which is just
That's amazing.
amazing, and you know, speaks to probably the quality of the education he was offered. And then he's like, well, fine, I'm gonna get my own, and amazing, it worked out for him. Good job, Wilson. So that was dope. Yeah, it's a great article. You should check it out. Listen to it.
Okay, so I guess that wraps up our second segment for this rundown. We'll be back with a third in just a few minutes. I'm Kevin.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm dead.
See you in a minute.
Oh.